Greetings and welcome to week 4. This week we're going to move from the realist lens to the liberal lens. And historically, liberalism has been the counterbalance to the realism that we learned about last week. While the realists, as you know by now, believe that the best you can do is a balance of power, and that states are always going to be looking out for their national interest and therefore competitive, liberals have a little bit rosier view of the possibilities for humankind. And they believe that by adhering to a standard set of values, whether those are democratic values, whether those are values as created by an international body, that states can cooperate, and through that cooperation the world can become a better place. So essentially, the international system is a place where cooperation, while it's difficult, can happen. And when it does happen, it benefits everybody. This week, your situation brief is about the state of Iran. And we studied Iran last week, and so you should be fairly well versed about the issues that Iran is having with the international community over its nuclear program. The United Nations, which is the greatest of all international organizations and the center of liberal thought, really, the United Nations has been trying through the International Atomic Energy Agency to verify that Iran's nuclear program is peaceful. And so you have a state, Iran, and then you have an intergovernmental organization, the United Nations, who is trying to govern the behavior of Iran and verify it through the use of an international body and not through violence. Now, the United Nations has placed sanctions a number of times on Iran, so there it's using economic power to change Iran's behavior. But Iran says that, look, it's our right to develop nuclear power. We are using it for peaceful purposes. Leave us alone. So you have this back and forth that we'll be discussing this week and that you will be reading about. So the lens that we're looking through this week is liberalism. Cooperation is better than competition, and we're going to focus on Iran. And the question that we're going to ask is, does Iran more clearly represent the lens of realism or the lens of liberalism? And that will be one of your online discussion questions as you go through the week. The world changed last week in Egypt, and now the international community is in an interesting position, because the job of international relations theorists and policymakers is to describe a situation, to explain why it happened, but then the two most difficult parts are to predict what's going to happen in the future and to prescribe policies that will make the outcomes in the future the most positive for the people in the Middle East, for the people of whatever state you are living in. So it's an interesting time, because as abruptly as the world changed, everybody is scrambling to try to predict what is the world going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, due to what's happened in Egypt. And another thing, in order to do that, really, international relations theorists and international relations scholars look to history. And today in our class here at Graded, we talked about Turkey and Iran as two possible historical precedents for what may happen in Egypt. And so we'll be using those comparisons as we go through the week and talking about Iran and Turkey. The final thing that I would like to mention, I've realized through conversations with some kids here at Graded that maybe having one online discussion and one journal each week being assessed formally through our rubric, maybe that's a little much. And some of the students here have really been going out of their way to write excellent journal entries, and so I want to honor that and not overload you with work and not create stress for you. So this week coming up, you're going to have 3 possible online discussions. You are to answer 2 of them. It's your choice, and you will not be graded on any of them. Your journal will still be assessed using our rubric, and that is how we will assess how you're coming along as a writer, but also how you're coming along as an analytical thinker and a student of international relations. So, liberalism, Iran and the United Nations. We'll keep an eye on Egypt. Only answer 2 of the 3 online discussion questions. I think that is it. Have a good week, and I will see you online.